My grandfather owns 10 of the biggest casinos in Las Vegas. But right now, I'm looking at a bank balance of exactly $0. He just gave me an ultimatum: ditch my fiancé or lose $1 billion inheritance. The reason? A missing purse, a dive bar in London, and a grudge that's about to cost me everything. The mahogany table in my grandfather's study felt a mile long. Silas, the shark. Sterling didn't get his nickname by being soft. He owned 10 of the most profitable casinos on the Vegas Strip, and at 82, he was still the most intimidating man in Nevada. "If you marry that stupid, arrogant girl," he growled, his voice like gravel in a blender, "you won't get nickel from my will. Not the penthouse, not the planes, and certainly not the Sterling legacy." I stared at him, stunned. "Grandpa, you met Clara once. She's a brilliant architect. Why the hostility?" He slammed a gold-plated ring onto the table. "She's a thief of character, Leo, and I don't leave my empire to people who can't spot an honest man." It was a rainy Tuesday in London. I had told Clara to meet me at a small, historic pub near her architecture firm. I was stuck in traffic, 20 minutes late. When I finally pushed through the heavy oak doors, the cozy, quiet atmosphere of the pub was gone. Instead, the pub was silent, not a peaceful silent, but everyone is staring kind of silent. Clara was standing over a corner booth, her designer trench coat splattered with rain, her finger inches from an old man's face. The man was wearing a worn-out flat cap, a faded barber jacket, and was nursing a single pint of Guinness. He looked like any other retired local. He didn't look like a man who signed checks for $500 million. "I know your type." Clara's voice rang out, sharp and entitled. "You saw me coming alone, saw my bag, and thought I'd be an easy target. Give it back right now, or I'm calling the police." My grandfather, Silas, didn't flinch. He didn't even put down his glass. He just looked up at her with those cold, gray eyes, the same eyes that stared down mobsters and corporate raiders in the 80s. He didn't defend himself. He didn't say, "I own 10 casinos." He just watched her. He was testing her. "Young lady," he said, his voice terrifyingly calm, "you should be very careful about the accusations you throw around. Once they're out, you can't take them back." "Is that a threat?" she scoffed, turning to the bartender. "Check the CCTV." This old thief was hovering right by my seat. The bartender, looking pale, reached under the counter. "Ma'am, your purse. It's right here. You dropped it when you took off your coat. It fell behind the stool." The silence that followed was deafening. Any normal person would have turned beet red, apologized profusely, and maybe bought the man his next drink. But Clara, her pride was too thick. She snatched the bag, checked the zipper, and huffed. Well, he should have said something instead of just sitting there looking suspicious. Honestly, this place is going downhill. She walked toward me, grabbing my arm. "Leo, thank God you're here. This creepy old man was trying to hustle me. Let's go." As I was being pulled out the door, I looked back. My grandfather caught my eye. He didn't wave. He didn't scold me. He just took a slow sip of his drink and shook his head. In that moment, Clara didn't just lose her temper. She lost her claim to the Sterling fortune. She had failed the one test Silas Sterling cared about, the character test. For the next month, I lived in a pressure cooker. Clara was pushing for a June wedding, scouting locations that cost more than most people make in a decade. "Leo, babe, we need the Sterling Rose Ballroom for the reception," she said, scrolling through her phone. "Tell your grandfather to clear the books for us." "He might disinherit me, Clara," I said quietly. She paused, her eyes narrowing. "He's bluffing." No one cuts off their only grandson. Besides, once we're married, he'll have to accept me. It's a power play. Don't let him win. But I started noticing things. The way she spoke to servers. The way she forgot her wallet every time we went out. The way she described my grandfather not as a person, but as a portfolio. I didn't back down. The wedding day arrived. I stood at the altar of a luxury chapel, waiting. My grandfather was absent. His seat in the front row was empty, a silent, multi-billion-dollar, "I told you so." When Clara walked down the aisle, she looked like royalty. But as she reached me, she whispered, "Did he send the wire transfer?" The wedding planner said the final payment hasn't cleared. "He didn't send it," I whispered back. "He cut me off, Clara. Completely. I have $400 in my bank account." The color drained from her face. The "I do" that followed sounded more like a question than a vow. The reception was a disaster. Since the bill hadn't been paid by the Sterling estate, the luxury catering was replaced with basic appetizers. The flowers were being taken away mid-event. Clara was livid. "Go talk to him, Leo. Go to Bellagio and beg." "I'm not begging for money I didn't earn," I said. "We have each other. We can live in my apartment, and you can keep working on your firm." "Your apartment?" she hissed. "I'm an architect, Leo. I don't live in apartments with laminate flooring. If there's no money, what was the point of this?" The room went silent. She realized she had said it too loud. Suddenly, the doors to the ballroom swung open. My grandfather walked in, flanked by two men in suits. He wasn't wearing a flat cap today. He was in a bespoke tuxedo that cost more than a car. He walked straight up to Clara. "The purse," he said simply. "What?" she stammered. "The night at the pub. You accused me of stealing your purse. You said I looked like a thief." He smiled, but his eyes remained ice cold. "I've spent 50 years running casinos. I know a gambler when I see one. You weren't betting on Leo. You were betting on his inheritance." He turned to me. "The will is still signed, Leo, but it's not for you. It's for the man you become after you realize who you just married." He handed me a legal envelope and walked out. Inside wasn't a check. It was a job offer. Floor manager, Sterling Casino number 4. Starting salary, $45,000. Earn your way back. I looked at the paper, then at Clara, who was already calling her lawyer. I realized then that my grandfather hadn't tried to take my future away. He had just saved me from a very expensive mistake. Never accuse a man in a dusty flat cap of being a thief, especially if that man secretly owns half of the Las Vegas Strip. My fiancé made that mistake at a local pub 6 months ago, and now my grandfather is writing me out his will